Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Staber,
Here.
Heisler,
Here.
O'Haron,
Here.
Bathke.
Here. All right, next, approval of the agenda. May I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve. Second.
Second, first and second. All in favor of approval of the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Item 3, a site plan.
If I wrote site plan on the agenda, I apologize, it's a preliminary plat, so that's a typo, sorry about that.
Right, adjust to item number 3.
Thank you. So this is a preliminary plat on 53.94 acres. It's a 10-lot commercial subdivision property at the northeast corner of West Forever Green Road and South Jasper Avenue. I think Scott was probably one of the first people I met when I first started working here, and we kind of talked about this property and some ideas we've had for zoning. And so I think with the lift station coming online here very shortly, hopefully, really kind of opens up not only this property, but the southwest portion of the city for development. And Steinler is looking really good. I'm working with the developer on the east side with some concept plans. So Jason, just like we were talking about, I think this area is really going to start developing. So property currently is zoned C2A. The future land use map is commercial, so the zoning's consistent with the future land use designation. One thing I failed to mention in the staff report is we did have a required good neighbor meeting on July 28th at 5:30. We held it via Zoom. We did not have anybody attend. There was only a couple landowners over there. The landowner to the north called me and just said the only concern that they had was just making sure the stormwater was managed, not really any objection to the proposal or anything like that. Staff did the technical review of the site plan, and the plan that is before you now meets all of the subdivision ordinance requirements. Couple notable things to talk about. We do anticipate that there will be a roundabout at the Jasper Avenue, West Forever Green Road, and be kind of a gateway into the city of North Liberty, and it's really at the border of Tiffin, Coralville, and North Liberty. And we do expect South Jasper Avenue to be developed. We are looking at what we call a RISE grant. That's Revitalize Iowa Sound Economy. So hopefully we get a good chunk of that paid for with that grant, and that's how quite a bit of South Kansas Avenue was paid for. As I mentioned, I've been talking to Scott about some adjustments to the zoning code. I'm hoping to bring those amendments to you this time, but I think I need another month. One thing we've talked about is kind of, I'm not quite sure what to call it exactly. Sometimes you can call these things a unicorn or an elephant. It doesn't really matter. But it's like a commercial office park or an industrial office park, meaning that it gives you a little bit more flexibility in uses. But it's more catered to what I would call a clean or light industry. And so, meaning uses are occurring indoor uses, and that way they have less of an impact, and you still focus on those design things that are important for like the 380 corridor. I know my predecessor had talked about we have a lot of vacant commercial land in the city, and it's probably going to take us about 100 years, assuming that there's no downturn, to fill all of that commercial land. And so that's the reason I'm kind of looking at these things, knowing that we've got overabundance of commercial, and the commercial development that we see is primarily focused on the Ranshaw corridor and Penn Street. Now maybe that'll change with the UI hospital coming along and Forever Green starts to pick up, but commercial development is primarily along those corridors. What we would expect to see in this location is probably something a little bit more that relies on that close proximity to the interstate and good interstate access. I can't really talk too much about this, but there's a really big-time economic development project that is specific to this project. It would be a tremendous game changer. We understand that this property is the only one in Iowa that they're looking at. Can't really go into too much beyond that, but it's very significant. And so something like that would rely on adjustments to the zoning ordinance anyway. Let's see, so we did have 3 findings: preliminary plat, achieves consistency with the comprehensive plan. Preliminary plat shows lots consistent with the C2A zoning, and it achieves consistency with ordinance requirements. And so staff recommends Planning Commission accept the 3 listed findings and forward the request to approve the preliminary plat to City Council with a recommendation for approval.
Thanks, Ryan, for that staff presentation. Is there an applicant's presentation tonight?
I don't have a presentation formally, but.
You may. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Yep.
Scott Anderson. I don't have a formal presentation. We've been working with staff for probably a year, ever since Ryan started. And we're looking forward to your approval tonight and move that process forward. We're excited about having sewer and water over there finally, and we've got some great prospects in the works that we've been working on diligently with the city, and we're excited about it, so.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And are there any public comments tonight? If not, go ahead, questions and comments from the commissioners?
I don't have any questions or
All right.
comments. I think it's, I think we sort of all anticipated this was coming. We've discussed it in the past, so.
All right. Well, if that's it, then I would look to the commissioners for a motion.
I move the planning commission accept the 3 listed findings and forward the preliminary plat to the city council with a recommendation of approval subject to the 1 condition recommended by staff.
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, we need a roll call on that, don't we? Thank you. Can we have a roll call for that vote?
Sure. Bathke,
Aye.
Staber,
Aye.
Heisler,
Aye.
Ahern.
Aye.
All right, there we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
Item 4 of our agenda is the Johnson County Livable Community for Successful Aging, a presentation by Jeff Kelbach.
Presentation sounds big, but I'll do what I can. My name's Jeff Kelbach, Aging Specialist with Johnson County Social Services. Talk to you guys a little bit about livable communities, my role at the county, and some recommendations that I have as far as building for residential. So Johnson County Livable Community, it's an initiative of the Johnson County Board of Supervisors. It addresses the needs of an aging population and serves as a unifying structure that brings together common interests and collective resources to foster effective collaboration, cooperation, communication, education, and direction of efforts that will build and sustain a livable community for successful aging. So, livable community is really meant for all ages, races, ethnicities. We really focus in on that aging population within the Johnson County Livable Community Initiative. We have a policy board. Those individuals are all applied to the Board of Supervisors. Board of Supervisors will approve those individuals. And we also have several action teams underneath the policy board. We have our caregiver action team, falls prevention action team, and communications committee, and our housing action team is the one that's most appropriate for what we're talking about tonight. Housing action team focuses on affordability, accessibility, and availability of adequate housing options. Big thing that they've been doing the last several years is an Aging in Place series. May have heard of it. This is in its 4th year, 2nd year on just exclusively online and Zoom. We have one tomorrow, in fact, Wellness in the Second Half of Life. So if you're interested in finding out more about it, you can either get the registration link through me, through Johnson County Livable Communities website, which is on the county now, or you can actually view it on Facebook Live if you go to the Johnson County Social Services Facebook page. A little bit about my role. I serve as the staff liaison for Johnson County Livable Communities. So I do website maintenance, including the service directory on there, create and send out monthly newsletters. I attend all the action team meetings and the policy board meetings as well. My main role at the county actually is fielding calls from individuals that live in the county that have questions. So I assist a lot of individuals with issues such as healthcare, housing is a huge one, and supportive services, and connecting them with social and community services as well. really my role is just making sure that they can find the options that exist in the community and help get them connected to them. So housing is a big one that comes up consistently. No surprise to anybody in the room, I'm sure. Trying to find those affordable options that are also accessible to them. Kind of a continual struggle to find that affordable housing. And by affordable, there are places that have the subsidy, make it a little bit less. But really, we see a big gap with the individuals at the 30 to 40% of the area median income. Finding housing options that are affordable for that population really can be challenging. I mean, you're talking about individuals oftentimes that have in the high $700s to $1,200 a month. It's really just not a surplus of options for them. So that is one of the struggles out there, is getting people into those housing options. Another thing, just to kind of talk about here, just older adults, most of them that, you know, live in their home, big thing for them is they desire to stay in that current home. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, only about 10.8% of homes in the western Midwest region have the three key features that make this easier. Those three features: a step-free entrance to the home, so no steps up, no steps down to get to the main level of the home. A bedroom and full bathroom on that first floor of the home, and at least one bathroom accessible feature such as grab bars or a built-in shower seat. Obviously, we see people do lots of modifications. One of the harder modifications at times can be that zero entrance into a home. A lot of it depends on the land that they're on. If they could do something to the front door, are there another entrance, such as the garage, that would be big enough to handle a ramp? And if you put a ramp in there, you're gonna be able to put any cars in there, because to get to the degree, you might have to be doing switchbacks. It can be kind of difficult, obviously. In this wonderful document, this was actually put together by our Housing Action Team. It's a great resource, and it is available to anybody in the public as well. They can just contact me. It's a great guide to be able to talk to individuals, family members about their plans when they're still able to make those kinds of decisions. A great tool for adult children to talk with them, or just older adults to talk with one another about what they want, getting their preferences out there in case something happens where they're unable to make those decisions later on. In the back of this, the Housing Action Team created an aging in place checklist. So it talks about some of those things that we just discussed, but the no step entrance, for instance, minimum 5 foot by 5 foot landing space outside and inside the entrance door. This is really, a lot of the things in here, trying to accommodate people that have mobility devices, whether that's, walker, maybe a wheelchair. You'll see the bigger door sizes, 36-inch doors, 42-inch hallways. These aren't things that we're saying should be in every single home out there, but we want to just try and make it more apparent that we're all aging. We're all going to get to a point that we're going to be an older adult, or we hope to be. And these are things that really need to be in people's thoughts as they're looking to either buy a home, and if they need to remodel it, are they going to be able to afford those remodeling? But also, people want to buy a home that they can hopefully just stay in. If you're buying a home in your 40s and 50s, you don't want to have to move out of there because you've had some sort of traumatic accident, or because of the way that you've aged. You simply can't do things like stairs anymore. So trying to get people just to really be cognizant of these things, trying to make sure that planning and zoning, here's these things. We're not expecting, instant, changes, because we know things can't happen. And one of the biggest challenges is we don't want you to just go ahead and implement these things with, nothing else out there. Our Housing Action Team consists of Iowa City Area Association of Realtors members and the Greater Iowa City Area Home Builders Association. Home Builders Association isn't going to be like, yeah, please bring on more mandates for us, make us do more things. We need to figure out some ways to make this appeasing, something they want to do. There almost needs to be that money hook into it. So, potentially looking at incentives to do these types of projects on new builds would be a big thing to just consider. Or where the property is located, in consideration to something like the sidewalk. If you're right up against, you got short distance between the sidewalk and the front entrance, putting a ramp in that is going to be very difficult to meet probably the city code or many building codes really. So, looking at just simple things like that where how can we make something where we don't have to put it in right now, but we can set it up so that they can make these modifications that may not be incredibly expensive. So that is really all I had for you. I don't know if you wanted me to talk about anything else, Josie, but I'm happy to answer any questions or continue to talk, but I don't want to keep people here just for me talking.
Well, thank you, Jeff. In full disclosure, I am actually the current chair of the Johnson County Livable Community Policy Board. So in my role on the Planning and Zoning Commission, Ryan and I have talked about it a couple of times, that the policy boards, in their strategic plan, they're wanting to reach out and build relationships with local governments within Johnson County. And what was it, 2-3 months ago, we met with a couple of people in the planning office from Iowa City, so this worked great to have a conversation here and come talk to us. And it's the building relationships, I think, and the sharing information that's really important. And
That's it. Just, having some open dialogue, just having that introduction into some of the things to be aware of. Like I said, nothing happens overnight. I don't anticipate that these things will happen overnight, but I'd like to be able to have discussion about these things and certainly answer questions. And you may not have questions that come up today, but if they come up in the next, week or two, feel free to reach out to me. I know I can give my information to Ryan, how to contact me. But just happy to answer any questions if anybody has anything today.
one of the things I'd like, just out of interest to also share with the commission, some things you do. During the last year and a half of COVID, can you give some examples of how you served the county and connections you've made, resources you've connected people to?
Sure. I mean, in my role, connecting with other aging organizations that are serving this older adult population, we've done a lot of things with COVID, trying to make sure that people that did not have access to getting the shot. So we worked a lot with North Liberty staff, Angela McConville. I've worked with a lot of individuals to help get people that could not just go to the UIHC or Mercy easily to clinics to get vaccinated. I've continued to meet with people. I mean, my role, I've continued to meet with people, whether it was through the pandemic or outside of that. I mean, I meet with probably 100 plus individuals in the community a year. And they're not necessarily meant to be long-term relationships. It's really about trying to help them complete whatever applications that may need. So folks living in North Liberty, we're helping those individuals if they need it. And Angela's just such a great resource with getting access to the transportation program here or filling out a seats application. But also trying to figure out, what kind of gaps are out there, what services do they need. Helped a lot of individuals get signed up for the Medicaid Elderly Waiver Program. It's a terrific program that helps individuals hopefully stay in the community that are at a nursing home level of care by providing home and community-based services to them. So that could include meals, although we have a great meal provider here that does the Meals on Wheels program through Horizons Elder Services. That is a program that is at no cost to people. Once again, help get them connected to individuals as well. A lot of what I do is just getting them really connected and then make sure that they're into the service. So not just saying, hey, you should call them. Let's do the call together. A lot of people just have a lot of obstacles to making that, don't understand the lingo of what we're talking about. You start saying, are you on Medicaid? I think so. Well, there's a lot to know about Medicaid. There's a lot to know about Medicare. I really try and help bridge those gaps, help educate them, and just get them connected to the right people. But during the pandemic, it was certainly a lot more difficult to do those things. But trying to make sure that people had access to the things that they needed, because there were a lot of changes to the service delivery that was out there at the time. North Liberty Community Food Pantry and the other food pantries were doing delivery to individuals through seats. So really, just all those things out there, just trying to help make sure that they know what's out there. And working closely with all the different individuals and key contributors out there to make sure we understand what the service delivery changes are. Just making sure that everybody kind of knows and keeps in touch with one another. So big piece is just that collaboration.
Thanks, Jeff. Any questions?
So what resources do you have for builders that are looking to make sure that the home that they're constructing would qualify?
You know, there's a program called CAPS, which is a Certified Aging in Place Specialist. There's a couple of different CAPS certifications out there now. You know, Carol Bonesack at the Home Builders Association is just a great resource, can help people figure out how to get connected into that. A lot of our, we have several builders in the area and remodelers that have gone through that training. And actually, I think there's a CAPS too that they've gone through, many of them gone through as well. I'd say that's something I'd really look at for individuals. You might be able to do some other things depending on, you know, if somebody's getting services in the home, such as therapy services, a lot of times an occupational therapist, be able to help identify what some of those issues may be and how to kind of remedy them.
Actually, I have a question that's probably more for Ryan. Do we have a code section that covers, sometimes referred to as auxiliary or accessory dwelling units? Like if you, in med cottage is one that comes to mind, and there's, some people refer to them as granny pods. I don't care for that term, but it's something that happens, and I know in bigger marketplaces that we see where you can literally have a small home, like a tiny home, dropped into a backyard with a crane and set on, you know, pilings or, you know, whatever the case might be. And I don't know if, do we have anything that addresses anything like that? Could somebody get a variance to do something like that if they?
Unfortunately, it's one of these standards that, pre-Ryan, it was, I think, determined that we don't want this here. If I recall correctly, I think the use is defined, but it shows up nowhere in the zoning ordinance, which tells me that it was meant to be exclusionary.
Got it.
We're getting ready to kind of go through our comprehensive plan update, and I think this is something that perhaps, you know, we'll have recommendations that come out of that, and I think that would be an ideal place if that's a place we would want to go
I would
to come out
suggest
of
that
it.
be on the list, especially with the cost of these things. And if you know, look at, those didn't used to be cost feasible, but with the price of healthcare, if you need assisted living, you know, those kinds of things, you know, a year or two of assisted living can oftentimes pay for something like that. And it would be a kind of a progressive thing to do, quite honestly, if we could, you know, if we could figure out a way to be able to make something like that happen. Obviously, you've got, you know, thresholds, you know, as far as setbacks and, you know, the amount of land that you've got. But I know, kind of looking forward, it'd be something I might even be interested in doing at my own house, if I can make it work. But
Yeah, we did something like that in Davenport, and in my it was permitted, and this was a recent zoning ordinance rewrite, but what was required is that one of the units had to be owner occupied, so either the house or because the concern was, well, somebody's, you know, going to develop and we're going to put these things here, they're going to be rentals, and we said, well, let's just make one of the units owner occupied, so that if you lived in the house, you could transfer over here, and then, you know.
yeah, there's a Chicago suburb, and I'm forgetting which one, that allows, it's on an annual, you renew them on an annual basis, and it has to be a relative that lives in the space. They have to qualify kind of on a, I think there's a kind of a matrix they use for qualification, and then it with the idea that it has to be removed eventually. But I think there, you know, at some point here in the future, there'll probably be a secondary market for those types of units that, you know, if you could be done using it, you could probably have somebody pick it up and take it, and, you know, so something to think about. And maybe Josie and Jeff are familiar with those, but if,
Not locally. I've one community. I mean, Miami. I've heard a lot about them, casitas, and
across the south there.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and obviously, kind of the population is kind of keeping their, you know, loved ones close. So a lot of times, yeah, the adult children caring for for a parent, not wanting them to be in their own home, having their own independence, but still being able to be close enough where they can kind of, yes, provide care and be able to check in on them easily where they're not across town or across county. So it is something that works really well for a lot of situations. It would definitely be a situational thing depending on what's going on.
Yeah, I will share. I have a parent going through this same situation, and the big three that Jeff talked about, I mean, that's the home that I grew up in, and the big three that you talked about, none of those exist in this house. It's a tremendous challenge.
Well, and one of the wonderful problems of the housing shortage here is we have so many people moving to the area, and we have fantastic healthcare that's even getting bigger. So I know personally, I know my parents are going to move closer now that they've retired, and we just look at all those things. That's how I found the board, the planning board. But one of the other things, are you able to share the recent achievement?
Sure, yeah. Johnson County was just recently recognized as a AARP age-friendly community. We applied for this really just a few weeks ago and heard really quickly. We had a couple of board members that really helped put together the application for it. Lorraine Bowens and Bob Welsh provided a lot of background information on it. And I don't know, it was something we probably would have been able to get quite a while ago, because I think what we've been doing this for quite some time. I mean, Johnson County Livable Communities, the county actually, put together the livable community. It was a grassroots effort. Bob Welsh was one of these leading individuals, and if you don't know who Bob Welsh is, then you may not have lived in the community for a really long time, but he is a really active older adult and has made a lot of great things happen in this community. He kind of pushed the county to create the Livable Community Policy Board, not that that's what it was going to be called, but this is back in like 2007 that the county created Johnson County Livable Communities. So really, I think we do live in an area that's a little bit more forward-thinking in terms of the issues that are coming up. And we've been going through the baby boomers here, started quite some time ago. It's going to continue on for quite some time. We are a pretty fast aging community. The over 65 age cohort is the fastest growing percentage-wise in the county. So
And are we the first county in Iowa? Was that what I remember, or one of the
we
first?
are the first county in Iowa to be recognized with that distinction of the AARP age-friendly community. So
Something to be proud of, but also something to, again, spur the conversation. And I think that's the most important part is the conversations. Would we be able to include Jeff's contact information in the minutes or in his website there?
Sure.
That'd be great.
awesome.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you all for having me tonight.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, moving on. Item 5, approval of the previous minutes. Do we have a motion for that?
I'll move to approve the previous minutes.
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? All right, old business. I don't have any on the agenda. All right, so we can move forward to new business.
As I mentioned, we, with the comprehensive plan, so we interviewed a couple consultants. We've narrowed it down to, the selection committee picked one. RDG out of, they have offices in Des Moines and Omaha. So we look forward to presenting that to City Council and awarding that contract and getting going on there. But we're really excited. I think they're going to be a great fit and put something together that's really great.
Fantastic.
And that's a 12-month process?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this will be a very robust, I think the comp plan we have now is, it's pretty thin, it's pretty lean, but this will be a robust, full, comprehensive plan and really examine where we want to grow. We hit that 20,000 mark and, we have the U coming on with the hospital and, where do we want to go for the next 20 years is what we're looking at.
Which talk about a fantastic announcement that
Yeah.
got approved.
Yeah.
Certificate of Need and the Regents.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other new business? All right, well, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
First and second, thank you. Meeting adjourned.